lots to talk about that Richard has prepared for us. And for his top news, apparently they're electric car commercials that are very cool, and we'll see how big the change that is coming is going to be. Are going to increase by 145 million by 2030. But that's only about 10% of all autos. Again, it's graphene, but today's story is about the transition of devices based on these two-dimensional materials going from research to industry, which is what we're promoting for a long time. I guess they're here on Earth, but are very frustrated with Elon Musk's satellites. Richard, he'll tell us about that. Printed electronics can be very, very bad for the environment, but now we have fully recyclable ones being developed. That will read the genomes of all 70,000 vertebrate species. And they have reported discoveries on the 25 species they're able to read so far. Now, with brain-computer interface, and it seems to be quite interesting, and Neurable is doing it.
Okay. Now, for the top story, I'm going to show you a little bit of the video I sent. I cut it down to a couple of minutes, so this way we can just kind of look at it and look at some of the EVs they're talking about.
Takes the press of a button to start, the squeeze of a lever to stop. It needs no license, no road tax. You can drive whether you're 14 or 40. £99. The Sinclair C5. It's a new power in personal transport.
So that kind of looks a little bit like one of those stripped down golf carts that people drive around to Hehick, only it's a $400 EV. So they're trying different things. Anyway, let's keep looking.
Well, it was $400 in 1985 or something.
Pounds.
Yeah.
It's not the launch, because we are.
What's surprising is that the Tesla didn't get a mention.
Wow.
And here's a small one like my
Because
Honda Fit.
Tesla doesn't make commercials.
Maybe they don't need to.
They don't. They just simply don't. Never seen one, and I have a Tesla.
And that's probably why this person is making the commercials.
That's right.
Right.
That's a Jaguar, the Mercedes.
They're pretty zoomy. They make you want to buy one.
That's the idea. They appeal to different
They're fast.
people.
They're all fast.
Cool, the little van.
Are these cars light? Like for like a half second, I saw it in the snow. Did
There
you
was
see
one
that?
in there was one in the show, the snow. So
Well, it's all about the battery.
certainly it's about the
Battery's pretty
battery.
heavy, I think.
There,
Okay. I got it.
this year there are 370 different EV models. So the EV revolution is upon us now. And I think having these commercials from this range of companies to me was very interesting, and certainly some of them are trying to go after the same slot that Tesla is going after with a very high performance, uh, you know, family vehicle. Some of them are like Porsche going after the sports car market. Some of them, like with that scooter like thing we saw before, are going after personal transportations. And a couple of them were, small, inexpensive cars, not these high price things. And some of them are appealing to young people. Some of them are appealing to people with money. I didn't show the person driving the Mercedes, but he was a middle-aged guy with a bald spot. And, different audiences for different cars. And to me, this really just shows the change that is coming. So what do you guys think?
What's interesting is that the EV vehicles do not need to be expensive. I bought a 2016 Nissan Leaf, wonderful car for a little over 12,000 a couple of years ago, and it drives like a dream. So that you don't need to buy one of those expensive Mercedes or somebody else.
I'm surprised. Johannes, have you heard estimations of like what percentage of people will be driving electric cars in 10 years? I've heard numbers that always sound very, very low to me, despite all these electric cars that are coming out. I still see estimates like in 10 years, it'll be like, 5% of people will be driving electric cars or some low number. And I would just think in 10 years, half the country should be driving electric cars. But part of the problem is the United States is so spread out. People are petrified about, the distance factor. But in Europe, it's not an issue because they can take subways and they're not driving very far. But Johannes, have you seen any numbers, or Richard, about what people predict in 10, 20 years? How long, for example, before we get to 50% or 75% of people driving electric?
I don't think I'll be alive by that time.
There's one of the articles that
It's
I have.
It's not about you. It's not about you, Johannes.
The article I have about EVs say that they expect 145 million by 2030. That's only about 10%. It says with government support, it could be twice that. I think that number is way low myself, like you do. Because it's going to happen with EVs.
Yeah, I tell you,
people,
once you drive an electric car, everyone I know that drives an electric car, the very thought of driving a gas-powered car will send you waves of nausea throughout your entire body. That's how much fun an electric car is, how much better it is.
Yeah.
there is a significant
A
cost
friend of mine,
Yes, Clive.
a friend of mine tells me, and I don't know whether he's telling the truth or not, but he says, we do not have the capacity to deliver enough electricity for everybody to come home from work in the evening and then plug their cars in to be charged up, ready for the following day. That the electric infrastructure around our cities and towns could not cope with the load.
Interesting.
That sounds insane. And I would also say, by the time we crank it up to where 20% potential problem, I think, will be solved with the advancement of green technology. I mean, that would be my gut response, but my gut could be wrong.
And not only green technology, a part of what they're doing with green technology is upgrading the infrastructure so that we have more power transmission lines around the country and the world.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
propaganda. That sounds like propaganda by someone that's against electric cars, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I'm not even used cars in a lot of them in New York City. I'm talking about, that's
But
New York City.
there's a lot of cars. There's a lot of cars.
Right, but New York City still, it's driven by subways and cabs. And
There's a lot of
I think
cars.
that's kind of the exception to the United States. It's a big city. I don't think New York City is emblematic of the general trend of electric cars versus gas-powered cars.
When we were in Spain, one of the shopping centers that, in the parking lot underneath the shopping center, it had stations for people to charge up.
Right.
While
They'll be everywhere.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense to me that every house they build, the whole roof should be photoelectric cells. I mean, it wouldn't cost that much more on the price of a house, and then, everybody would have virtually free electricity. But I'd like somebody to do a study and to, highlight what the problems are and things like that, because I don't know enough about electricity supply to be able to figure it out.
What's interesting, Richard, do you know what the numbers are for Europe? Because I think in 10 years, you're going to have a much higher percentage of people driving electric cars. I don't know what the numbers are, but I think it'll be much higher.
Well, at least half of these ads were British, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the number of European EVs. Sorry.
Yeah.
But on a sort of a side note here, Richard, I know you know about Silicon Valley in the early days. And what struck me with the first ad that I saw here, it was a Sinclair. And do you remember the Sinclair microcomputer way back when?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know whether it's the same company or not? I don't know.
I
First thing I thought of was Sinclair, because it's cheap. It's cheap and it's little, and and not too many people got Sinclair computers, but a lot of people got micrcomputers and PCs.
Right.
Well, one of the things about those ads was it was a chronology of ads over the last 20 years. So the Sinclair was one of the first small electric cars that was offered, but it never really went anywhere.
Good expression.
Yeah.
In our community, I've seen lots of people riding about on these electric bicycles where you just have to help it get up the hills. Otherwise, you're just riding around for free.
The other thing about cars is the average life of a car is about 10 years. So even if 100% of the car sales in 2030 are electric, there'll still be a lot of gasoline and diesel powered vehicles in the vehicle population that are going.
And I don't know whether I can be heard or not. Am I still there?
You can,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
All right. I don't know whether we want to say anything more about electric vehicles or move on to the graphene. Have we finished the electric vehicle issue?
Let's keep going. Let's just.
Okay. On graphene, we've talked about it a lot, and now some pilots are going to talk about how we can move these two-dimensional materials for devices from research to industry. What's that about?
In Europe, in 2013, Europe launched the graphene flagship project, and they have actually given it a budget of €1 billion. And what this project is doing is trying to speed the development of graphene and put it in production. And what they have started most recently is a €20 million investment in an experimental pilot line. And this experimental pilot line is a place where they can take these new graphene developments in terms of products and try them out in pilot production. They want to build a bridge between university researchers, these various spin-offs, and industry by finding a way to speed the transfer of this scientific knowledge into an industrial environment. And particularly, the project is working towards the integration of 2D materials into established semiconductor platforms. That is one of the big efforts that's going on. And in 2014, actually, IBM announced that it was investing $3 billion towards the development of this next generation chip technology, which was including 2D materials in the semiconductor process. So again, what they have now is a pilot facility. So these many developments that we're hearing about with graphene can then be where they can figure out how to actually put this stuff in production. And I believe that the attempt to do things like this are really going to speed up the introduction of graphene into the commercial world by maybe as much as 10 years. So it's actually a big deal, and graphene is going to bring many changes in technology and electronics, and these guys are spending money to make that change happen sooner rather than later.
Any thoughts?
Well, typically these kinds of changes take 50 years or 2 generations to move from discovery to widespread implementation. And just the fact that these people in Europe are spending this kind of money in 2013 or whenever to have it move into society within 10 years. We're only 2 years away from their 10-year deadline. And we know that graphene is a lot further than 10 years away from widespread application. So I just think it reinforces the understanding that these things take a long time to move from the lab to the to widespread use.
Well, there's different uses of graphene. There's like 30 different things that are made of graphene. So some will advance sooner than others, but I think some are just about in use right now or very close.
And they're
Did anybody
particular
see the 60-minute story about, I'm sorry. Did
about
anybody see 60 Minutes had a major story about chip technology, and the politics kind of gets involved because there's only one country, I think, in the United States that makes them now. And the major country that makes them that is an ally of the United States is Taiwan. Taiwan has a very huge, very vital chip manufacturing company. I forget what it's called. But the United States president or CEO was saying that they're a couple years away from coming up with a chip that competes with they're like 30% slower than I think Intel is the only company, and they're 30% behind the chip manufacturer in Taiwan. And then you throw China into the mix, and the rare earth metals and whatever material is needed, and the whole geopolitical situation plays into this mess. But graphene was never peeped, as far as I could tell, during the 20-minute story about making chips.
And, this is a particular deal. We have hit the limit of silicon technology and Moore's law. What companies like Intel are trying to do. I'll have a story next year. Intel is spending about $25 billion to upgrade their wafer fabrication, and a big part of that investment is to use their technology, which lets them put more layers into the semiconductor, since they can't get additional density of devices because of limitations. They can't make it smaller anymore. Then they're just putting in more layers. And so part of the issue with graphene is, I think the technology people see graphene as the thing that is going to break the limits that they presently have in terms of semiconductor production, and continue us on the road to continuing to make everything smaller and use less power.
Well, Richard, if we want to move on to another kind of technology, what has astronomers so upset about Elon Musk and his satellites?
It's not just Elon Musk with the satellites, but he's the poster boy, I guess, now for satellites with what he's trying to do. The problem with all these satellites is they light up the sky, and even in the darkest places on Earth, it's getting where you no longer have an unimpeded view of the night sky. And this change is happening very fast. To create global broadband internet, companies like Musk's Starlink are launching lots of satellites. Musk has already launched about 1,300 satellites. He's got permission to launch 12,000 satellites, and he plans to launch 30,000 of these satellites. And the problem for the astronomers is when the satellites cross into their field of vision, it can destroy the image that they're trying to take. And the astronomers, on one hand, the only entities on the planet that can do anything about this are essentially the United Nations, and doing anything like this through the UN is a slow process, And so many astronomers feel like they've already lost the battle, and that wheels turn so slowly that by the time the UN gets any consensus, the game will already be over. And the number of satellites orbiting the Earth is due to increase by an order of magnitude in the next few years. That is, whatever the problem is now, it will be about 10 times worse. And it doesn't say it in the article, but I think this is marks pretty much the end of optical astronomy on the planet Earth. We'll have to use satellite systems to do this kind of work in the future. And it's going to make some investments that they're presently doing worthless. In Chile, for example, there's a giant observatory that is under construction, and it has a huge field of view 40 times the size of the moon. And this wide field of view means it's going to be even more bothered by all of these satellites going by. And SpaceX is actually trying to be a good guy. They are working with the astronomy community and working to make their satellites less reflective, but they're still going to be reflective, and there's going to be a lot of them. Now, there are some people that are making the radical idea of, instead of having it be the Wild West with all these satellites in orbit, they argue we should think of the night sky, quote, as an ancestral global commons containing the heritage and future of humanity's scientific and cultural practice. It's not currently being treated that way. And as I say, I think this marks the end of optical astronomy from the planet Earth. Don't tell your kid
Any
to be an
comments?
astronomer.
It's
And I,
that all that debris in space also poses problems, other kinds of problems, increasing, with satellites that are new satellites running into this debris seems to be a problem.
can I make a couple comments?
Yes.
Full disclosure, my nephew is an engineer for SpaceX, so I need to get that out of the way. Second, the huge telescopes they're making, some of them I think may be radio telescopes and some are infrared telescopes. So I think they will still garner tons of information. Third, when I hear about the Hubble telescope and how when astronomers borrow time on the Hubble telescope, it generates so much information for research for years to come. But here's the most exciting thing: is everybody know why they should be excited on October 31st this year? Trivia question. Why should every one of you be just doing a Snoopy dance on your tippy toes about the date of October 31st of this year? Does anybody tell me?
No, tell us.
Well, then I will tell you. Let me say you're welcome. And then I will tell you the answer is that the James Webb Telescope will be launched on October 31st. It was supposed to be March, but because of COVID, it was pushed off 7 months. So the James Webb Telescope, which will make the Hubble telescope look like your personal little binoculars when you're looking at the moon, and that will generate just the most extraordinary, wonderful sights and information for research for years and years and years to come. So if this is a downer story, the good news is that there's some major exciting things to be thinking about, even if you want to go into astronomy, because astronomers, they're not using optical telescopes, are they, Rich? So they're going to be using the information from the James Webb and the Hubble telescope to do their research.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the Hubble 2 or the James Webb 2, but I think what you've just said is, that's it. Even if it is the end of Earthbound astronomy, probably we don't need it.
Yep.
Broadly speaking, what are all these satellites up there doing?
Internet. I think it's all internet access.
Is the biggest thing.
Yeah, it'll do a lot of good. It'll
right.
do a lot of incredible good, I think. So we'll be able to hear each other a lot better. So Fred won't go in and out every 5 seconds.
Well, particularly it'll get internet spread to places in the world that don't have it now. So it'll make the internet much more of a worldwide tool.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Richard, what's this about recyclable printed electronics?
Well, right now, only about 25% of what they call e-waste is presently recycled. And of course, with all the computers, all the smartphones, all the other technological gadgets that we have, the amount of e-waste on the planet has been increasing significantly every year, really, for the last 30 or 40 years. And here, what they have done is they have developed a fully recyclable way to be able to print electronics. And the particular breakthrough that they've made at this point is the ability to 3D print transistors using 3 different materials, and these transistors that they can print are 100% recyclable. And so silicon-based computer components will probably never go away. They're not. They have more circuit density, and you can make more complicated things with silicon than you can with the 3D printed electronics. And the 3D printed electronics will start off being fairly simple circuits. What they have to do to be able to make this 3D printed active electronic idea is they still have to lay out the circuit entirely within the plastic and be able to print it. That's actually a pretty complex job. But what they hope is that by creating this first fully recyclable, easily printed technology, that they are helping to create a new future for electronics that is really circular production, where what is used in electronics, these electronics, can be fully recyclable. And maybe it's a new day for electronics and this recycling of that component. What we need to do is find out more ways through the different products that we have to make a circular economy if we're going to save the planet from all the trouble that we're creating. And this is a piece of doing just that.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments?
But what makes it kind of makes sense to me, because when I have electronic devices kind of break down on me and things like that, it's always the mechanical part. It's always the
Clive, I don't think we can hear you.
We lost you, Clive. Well, how about another comment?
Well, it's interesting because in Europe for years, when you recycle, they have like 12 or 15 different little places you can go. And one of them is for all electronic circuits, electronics in general, the mechanical and all the rest of it.
Hey, Johannes, where do we drop off electrical crap in Cincinnati? Any idea?
Hi, Clark. I've got a.
Do you know? Home Depot or something? There is
Well-
a place. I think it's Home Depot.
I don't know.
Well, Richard, if we're moving along, what's about this project that's going to get the genome of 70,000 vertebrate species, and what's it been learning so far on those that it's already done?
Now, this is a project that has been forming almost over the last 20 years, where there have been people who start to say we have this genetic sequencing equipment. Let's use it to find out about life on the planet, is the general idea. And this idea, as the gene sequencing technology has been improving, then this idea is getting stronger and stronger. And now there is a one of the most audacious projects in biology ever, which is to read the entire genome of every bird, mammal, lizard, fish, and all the other creatures on the planet with backbones. There are altogether about 70,000 of these, and they have started to do it and now have delivered the first high quality genomes of 25 species, including things like the Canada lynx, the platypus, and a kind of parrot. And these are the first high quality genomes of an endangered species. And it's done with a new level of accuracy. And the scientists say when we do this, we will get a spectacular picture of how nature actually fills out all the ecosystems with this unbelievably diverse array of animals. And again, they're able to do this because the better and better gene sequencing that we have now. And they believe that this is the start of a new era of discovery in the life sciences. And besides other benefits, one of them is this also may boost the ability to save rare species. So we're going to, through this, learn much more about life on the planet and the way that life has figured out how to solve all the problems of how to live in these different niches. And we're going to find out a ton of more information about things that live on the planet. So that's the story.
Any thoughts?
Any health benefits for human beings from this, can you think of?
As we learn more about the genetics in general of mammals and vertebrates, we're going to learn more about the humans, I'm sure.
Mhm.
I have, this is only peripherally connected, but being an animal fan, there are two new series I highly recommend. One on Disney Plus is James Cameron, Compliments of James Cameron, is a 4-part episode on whales, which is, I watched the first episode on Orca. That's wonderful. And then there's a new David Attenborough, Life in Color on Netflix, 3 episodes. So for those of you who, like me, love to watch animal specials, those are 2 wonderful series.
Thank you for that.
I think if we learn, as we learn more about different animal species, we can also learn how they deal with infections and other things. Some seem to don't have the same problem with infections as human beings, for example.
Mhm.
Well, Richard, what's this in our human story about headphones that can link up your brain with your computer?
Now, the brain-computer interfaces are one of the things that we will hear more about as time goes on. And, you know, we certainly know about Elon Musk's Neuralink, where they insert tiny little electrodes through your skull into your brain and are able to see what your brain is doing that way. This particular device, you don't have to drill holes in your brain to use. That's the good story. And instead of having the kind of electrodes that are used in other brain sensing devices, these BCI sensors are made from cloth and much easier to move on and off your head. And the Neurable is the name of the company, and they have announced their first product, which is N10, Enten, and it is a pair of headphones that can do everything that headphones can do, but it also is got a BCI interface that they have done a decade worth of neuroscience before they made this product. And their specific thing they're trying to do here is they say that most humans have really only 2 or 3 hours a day of high productivity. And what they're trying to do with this device is help the people using it manage their productive time by doing a couple of things. One is suggesting break time in order to maintain your focus at its highest level through the day. And then also the headphones use active controls to automatically silence notifications while you are busy, and they have passive controls to remove distractions. And to me, these are interesting, partially because this is one of the first attempts to make a commercial product that hopefully has real benefits for real human beings using this brain computer interface technology and what they have been learning from neuroscience. And they figured out an application that is helping people's productivity that they think will be a successful way to introduce this kind of idea. And so, with things like this, we're going to start to see these brain computer interfaces working its way into the life of real people.
Any thoughts?
Well, it sounds like, in a way, they're going to control you. If you are on a move, you have some new things you want to do, all of a sudden you have to take a break. Is that how it works?
Well, that's going to suggest you
And
take
I'd
a
like
break.
to,
Go ahead, please, Cliff.
Richard,
Yeah.
I'm going to call into question, and I think you're going to agree with me that you being I'm guessing a meditation fan, perhaps mindfulness meditation, is that right?
That's one of the techniques. Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, well, I
Yes.
would call into question that human beings on average only have 3 hours of productivity in a day. I think rather than shoving things in our brains, maybe if we taught everybody mindfulness meditation, we might crank that 3-hour number up to 6 or 7 anyway.
It's possible. Certainly, my own experience, one of the reasons why I meditate is I feel like it frees up creative energy. And so I feel like I have more creative juice every day.
I believe you
wonder-
do. I don't think there's any doubt.
You know, and I wonder
Yeah,
if a
I
product
always,
like this could help my meditation. Get my headsets on and
well, yeah,
yes, go ahead, please, Clive.
yeah, yeah. I always thought that my employers would have got a hell of a lot more work out of me if they just let me take a nap whenever I felt like it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm dead serious.
I think that's happening now. I think people are understanding better that people need naps. And a 15, 20-minute nap has been shown to be extremely productive for people. So I think
That's right.
Progressive companies are on that totally.
Yeah.
And I've been taking
So
quick naps
so long
in the
as they
middle of
don't.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. No, so long as they don't say, okay, well, you had a nap this afternoon, so you'll be okay till 8 o'clock tonight then, won't we?
I was
Oh,
saying
I'm sure with all the people working from home, I'm sure with all the people working from home, they're taking a few little cat naps.
Absolutely, yeah.
yes. For the last 30 years, I've taken a short nap in the middle of the day every day, and it was so important to me that when I was working, I would try to drive home for my 10-minute nap.
Can we go around the room and do a quick straw poll? I'll start off by telling you that most days my brain completely shuts down around now, about 3 o'clock. Typically about 3 o'clock, and I can just tell my brain is screaming for a nap. And I used to suppress that. Can we go around the room? Like, Fred, what about you?
I take a nap.
So you're usually what time of the day?
Oh, it's around 2:33.
Same thing. Johannes and Suzanne?
I take a nap when I need it, not necessarily in a specific time. When I worked, I would go out in my car and I would sit sometime for 15 minutes and just not even sleep, just relax. I come back in the afternoon, energized again. I did it.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I don't take a nap. Johannes takes lots of naps. I don't take a nap, but I go and do something totally.
Andrew?
I don't take a nap, but I often fall asleep in front of the
Okay.
TV.
I think you need to take a nap. I think you need to take it. I think we've just learned, you just learned something today. Leslie,
I don't nap.
and you never feel like your brain is kind of crashing?
I do sometimes, and then I take a nap, but
Ah.
I don't do it regularly.
Not regularly though. Heather?
Heather.
Oh, yes, that's why you can see me now. This is a topic after my heart here. I used to work the overnight shift in the newsroom, and
Okay.
I couldn't handle it, working all night. I would have to take my lunch period or break, and I would sleep. I put pillows on the floor and I would sleep in the women's bathroom. And I can remember doing the same thing, even in my 20s. I had several people working for me, and I would take a nightgown to work and I'd go into the storeroom. I'd have to get really comfy or it wouldn't work. And I took a 20-minute nap and I feel like a brand new person.
I think the 20 to 30 minute, as I understand it, is the perfect amount of time. Mary Ellen, what about you?
No, I don't. I
You
don't.
don't need it.
Yeah,
Everybody's
not
different.
yet.
So in
And-
our straw poll, and Richard, you said you do, right?
I do. And what I was going to say was, for me, if it's longer than about 20 minutes, then it's not as good because my body starts to go into this sleep cycle. And instead of waking up
Right.
energized, then I start to feel kind of logy. So doing it and having it be
Right.
short, 10 or 20 minutes, is perfect for me.
Yeah, I think everyone has to figure out for themselves, but I think our straw poll is probably pretty typical. I'm guessing 75% of human beings would do well to take a 15 to 30 minute nap whenever they sort of learn is best for them.
Yeah, I'm the same as,
Yeah, driving for several hundred miles.
Oh, yeah.
I get tired, pull into the side. I sleep for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm ready to go another 200 miles to Sunnycan.
Right.
What really happens is that he pulled in, I would take over driving. And 10 minutes later, he would wake up and say, "Are you tired yet?"
So we
yeah,
talked a lot about things that can make us better, from headphones to meditation to naps, and now we're going to talk about supplements. And apparently, as Richard, there's an anti-aging compound that will improve muscle glucose metabolism. And what is muscle glucose metabolism, and what is this compound?
Now, you'll have to tell us what muscle glucose metabolism is. When I first found out about this story, I sent Fred an email saying, "Gee, I think this would be interesting for you." And it turns out he's been taking something closely related to this for more than 2 years. So, I'm really behind the time. The particular compound is nicotinamide mononucleotide. It's known as MNN. And the scientists have known about this for some time. That's why Fred could get this recommendation that he got, that NMN has been demonstrated in mice to counteract effects of aging and improve metabolic health. And now they have started to study it with people. They studied it in a small clinical trial of postmenopausal women who had pre-diabetes, and it showed that NMN improved their ability of insulin to increase glucose uptake and in the skeletal muscles. And this is often abnormal in people with obesity, prediabetes, or type 2 diabetes. NMN also improved gene expression involved in the muscular structure. Uh, it did not improve blood glucose or blood pressure, but provided enough other help where I ordered my first bottle from Amazon or from Mercado Libre, and it was delivered, and I've started to supplement it. And I'll tell you in a few days if I feel uh, better and stronger and more energetic. But they talk about this as having remarkable beneficial effects on rodents. And since our metabolism is largely the same as rodents, they think that it's going to do the same for humans. The rodent study have been so persuasive that there are several companies around the world in Japan, China, and the US that have started to market this compound already as a uh, nutritional supplement. And uh, they tested it here on postmenopausal women because the mouse study showed that NMN has the greatest benefit in female mice. And so they were trying to see if it was good for female people too. Now, the people doing the study, though, say that, quote, although our study shows a beneficial effect of NMN on skeletal muscle, it is premature to make any clinical recommendations based on the results of our study. I read that and I started to take it anyway. So we'll see if it's premature. The problem that I have with waiting forever for the final results for all of these studies is I'm 77 and my clock is running down now. So I'm looking for things that will help. Comment.
Any thoughts?
I wonder how they identify postmenopausal mice.
I don't, good question.
Oh, gosh. Well, do you notice any interesting changes in your body, like vibration or sudden tingling or a sudden desire to go out jogging around the block? I mean, have you noticed?
I've taken it. I've taken it 2 days so far, and neither
Well,
of
it should
these.
be working then.
That's right. Neither of these days have I run around the block yet.
Not yet.
I asked Fred the same
next week-
question, and Fred, when he started to take it, started to take a bunch of other things, and so he doesn't know what benefit that it has for him, but he's continuing to take it every day anyway.
Well, Fred, it's a good job you're a researcher. Because, you know, my concern would always be what works with what or what contraindicates something else or whatever.
Yeah,
Fresh
well,
fruit and vegetables.
but the problem with me is if I try a lot of different things, if I feel slightly different, what caused it?
Yes.
So just take one at a time. I'm reading an article right now on the phone. It looks like there's no side effects. You got to figure out whether you want to take 250 or 500 milligrams. Richard, how much does it cost?
It costs about $60 a bottle, and a bottle is a month's worth, and that's 250 milligrams. So it's within the range of dosage that's okay. So it's not cheap.
So how many tablets? How many tablets for 60 bucks?
30 tablets, a month's worth.
A month's worth. And any idea whether you should take it with meals, during meals, bedtime?
I don't know. I take it with my breakfast is what I'm doing. I
Mhm.
don't know what the recommendation is.
I would think if it facilitates absorption of glucose into your muscles, a good time to take it would be before you exercise, around the time of a big meal, something like that, but I have no idea.
But it's not multi-level marketing, right?
Meaning?
Well, I know a lot of people in multi-level marketing, and I've researched, I'm an avid
Right.
researcher
No,
myself.
it's not an MLM product.
What does that mean, multi-level marketing?
Oh, that's
You mean the
when
concept? What is
multi-level marketing is kind of like a Ponzi scheme where you get a lot of other people to buy the product. You sell it to all your friends and make piles of money.
Isogenics, run? Yeah.
Does anybody take
Tupperware.
Does anybody take resveratrol? That was a huge product that allegedly slowed aging, and that's one of those products that you can buy. That you know, it's the extract of wine that allegedly, you know, they tested worms or something, and they lived like 100 times longer when they gave them resveratrol. I have a bottle. I started taking it, but I just forgot about it, just sitting around. I don't take it anymore. Nobody takes resveratrol?
Not yet.
Well,
I've been
100
thinking
times
about
longer
it.
than what? Sorry.
The normal tapeworm.
Yeah.
Now, Fred held
I
up
take
his hand when you
resveratrol
asked
as
that,
well.
so Fred takes.
Yeah, I take resveratrol as well. The NMN is a precursor of something called NAD. If you're researching them, put in NAD as well as NMN. What I find with the NAD, it's about as expensive as all of the rest of the pills together. So I'm trying to find ways of cutting back on that because it's very expensive.
And NAD.
Resveratrol.
NAD is one of the things that not only does it have a beneficial effect in keeping animals healthy, NAD also declines with age, you know, so thus the theory of supplementing it reduces effects of aging.
NAD is a fundamental molecule in body chemistry and in energy, and ATP. NAD is like a major, the fundamental molecule.
And NMN is a precursor to NAD.
Yeah.
One of the problems with NAD supplementation, you lose a lot of the value if you drink very much.
Oh, okay. Back to the wine.
The point is,
Can I ask why you stopped taking resveratrol?
Me?
Yes.
Laziness. Just forgot. I keep looking at it and I go, no reason. No side effects or anything. I just, in my heart of hearts, I thought, Cliff, who are you kidding? It doesn't matter. No good reason.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah. Just be good.
Well, Rick, thanks a lot. And maybe by the time next week comes around, we'll all be a lot younger.
Okay, I hope so.
That would be nice.
Time.
Okay.
Everybody.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all for joining. I'll see you next week. Adios.
All right. Sorry I was late.
Sorry, John.